So geothermal heating is sometimes confusing. It's actually much better to talk about it as ground source heating because of the confusion. So in Iceland, where I grew up, they have what's called geothermal heating because their groundwater is heated by magma in the Earth's crust, molten lava. And so they can just take superheated groundwater and pump it through your house and heat your house that way. That is not what we're talking about when we're talking about geothermal heating. We're talking about ground source heat pumps that are actually using the heat from the sun that is absorbed into the surface of the earth. And so it's actually solar heat if you think about it. 47% of the sun's energy as it hits the earth is absorbed. And some of it is reflected back into space and trapped in the atmosphere, which keeps us nice and warm. And these days increasingly a little bit too warm. So when we talk about geothermal heating here in New York and in Pennsylvania, we are not talking about the geothermal like they have in Iceland. We are talking about this right-hand side of my slide, which is the sun's heat as it is absorbed into the earth. And below frost line, the temperature of the earth is about a constant 52 degrees-ish. And so that's the heat that we're talking about using to heat and cool your home, just to make that clear. Okay, so any geothermal or ground source heating system has three basic components. There's a bunch of different kinds of these systems, but they all have these three components. So the one component is the ground loop. That's the way that that Earth's heat or that sun heat is collected. And then it's brought into your house. And there's the second part, which is the refrigerant loop, where there's a compressor and heat exchanger that usually lives in your basement. And then the third part is the distribution system that distributes that heat around your house. And you already have a distribution system of some kind in your house that distributes the heating system that you currently have. So the new parts are the ground loop and the refrigerant loop. And sometimes you need an upgrade or an amendment to your distribution system, but you are familiar with what one is. So I won't fully explain the refrigerant loop, but basically all heat pumps work on a little bit of physics magic, which is made possible because the chemicals in the refrigerant loop are chemicals that can be easily condensed or evaporated, releasing or absorbing heat. And that process is what keeps the inside of your refrigerator cool. So it's a little bit of magic, but it takes the heat from the earth or from the air from another source and makes it so that you can use it to heat or cool your house. Okay, moving on. So just that ground loop, that first part that is collecting the heat from the ground comes in different flavors and colors. Most commonly in this area, we see horizontal loops where trenches are dug. I'll show you a picture of that. And these loops are put down that have water with a little bit of antifreeze in them. That water circulates through the ground by a pump and is collecting the heat of the 52-degree ground, or expelling heat from your house if it's running in air conditioning mode to the 52-degree ground and bringing it back into your house. But also for some people, a ground loop, a horizontal loop is not convenient, so, or possible. So for some people, they bring in a drill rig and drill a deep hole and run a vertical loop. And then for a few people, you might have a pond on your property that is suitable for a heat pump, and then you can just run the loops out into your pond. There are some cautionary things with that technique, so you'd want to be careful that your pond was suitable for it, but it could end up being the cheapest option because you don't have to dig or drill or dig as much. So it's why it's very important to talk to our installers, because they are the experts in which kind of ground loop is the best for your situation at your house. They understand the geology and a lot of the other factors that go into that. Okay. So here's some more pictures of ground loops. On the right is horizontal loops. Those are about 6 foot deep trenches by 150 feet long, I believe. And one of those trenches for each sort of ton of heating that you need for your house. And on the left-hand side, you can see a drill rig, just like if you were drilling a water well for your house. It's the same exact thing, except instead of a water well, they put a pipe down for collecting the heat. Okay, I don't have a picture of a pond being dug. So here's what the inside looks like. It sort of looks like a refrigerator. And this is where that water, that heated water or cooled water, if it's in air conditioning mode, will come into your house and go into this unit, the heat pump unit itself. And that's where the magic of the refrigerant loop happens. And then in this picture, you can see this is a forced air system. So you can see this duct work going up just as it would from your fossil furnace. And that's going to go throughout the house, bringing the warmed air or the cooled air in the summer throughout your home. Okay, these are a couple of case studies just quickly. This is a system that was installed quite a few years ago here in Tompkins County. This is my friend Katie's house. It's a beautiful, modernly built farmhouse on 3 floors, and she had radiant heat in all the floors, and she was heating with wood and propane. So she got quite a big system. It's a 6-ton hydronic heat pump system. She had horizontal trenches dug, and the cost to her at that time after the incentives was $22,750. Her annual savings compared to what she was paying for heat before was $3,746. And so the payback period for her her system was only 3.4 years, which is incredible. And another thing she said when she wrote me an email about it is that with her old system, they had kept the house at around 60 degrees, and with the new system, it was around 68 degrees. So a real difference for her home's comfort, and an incredible difference in the cost for them monthly and annually. And another example, this is a forced air system. This is my friend Emily and Jim's house in Newfield. So this one was just put in almost exactly a year ago. It cost $36,000 before the incentives, $19,000 after the incentives. And they haven't, this is the projected savings. They haven't given me their numbers yet, but this is what was projected by the installer of $1,100 to $1,200 a month. It was a smaller system, 4-ton forced air system. And again, a horizontal loop field. They have a big pasture where their horses are, or just, I think they just have 1 horse now. And that's where the loop field went. So here's a little price comparison of some of these are all the same size 4-ton systems, which is I think the same as the last house I showed you. And this is showing some of the technology that's available through the HeatSmart program. So that we have a forced air variable speed unit, a forced air 2-speed unit, and a hydronic unit on the bottom here. And you can just see these are some of the quoted prices from our HeatSmart Tompkins installers. They're brand new incentives that NYSEG and National Grid has the same ones just announced that are based on the efficiency of each unit. So they're calculated by each kind of a piece of equipment. So that's why I can't just tell you what the incentive is for your house. It's going to depend on what kind of system you have put in. And then these are the prices afterwards. And then I calculated the price that would actually cost you after the 26% federal tax credit. And of course, that tax credit can only be used by people who are paying federal taxes. So not everybody qualifies for that. So you just want to make sure that you know that. But everybody qualifies for this new incentive from NYSEG, the utility. And you get the 26% tax credit after the NYSEG incentive is subtracted from the price, which is why it's there. So a 4-ton system is a pretty typical size for a house in this area. Some are smaller, some are bigger, but some need bigger systems, some need smaller systems. But I think the installers will tell you that they install a lot of 4-ton systems. Okay. And this is just another slide about the incentives that I think I should have put before that other slide, now that I think about it. So this just shows you that the incentive is $1,500 per 10,000 BTU. And so the typical range of money you would get back is between $4,000 and $9,000. And then there's the federal tax credit that I mentioned before. And by the way, if you don't act this year, that federal tax credit is supposed to go down to 22% next year, and it was 30% last year. They thought they were going to be able to keep it at 30%, but somehow that didn't happen in Washington. So if you are interested, the incentives are really good right now. So this is an exciting new development. Just last week, NYSERDA announced that as part of their response to the COVID crisis, they are offering 0% financing through a program called Green Jobs, Green New York. And this can, anybody for a 1 to 4 family residential home can apply for this. Small commercial buildings with companies with 100 employees or less, and nonprofits are all eligible to apply for this as soon as the pause is lifted. This financing will be available for up to 12-month period after that, or until available funds are exhausted. And those of us who have dealt with these programs in the past will tell you that the latter is likely to happen. So those funds are likely to dry up. So if you are interested, again, you're going to want to be one of the first people applying for this 0% loan, because it doesn't get cheaper than that. So this is really exciting. I have to say that 800 installers and people interested in this issue were on a webinar with NYSERDA, and this is one of the things that we asked for as a response to COVID, and the state responded pretty quickly with this financing, which is very exciting to know how responsive they were. Okay, I'm almost done. So just to compare fuels, if you had a 3-ton load for your heating, and this is based on last year's prices, so it might not be quite up to date, it would probably cost you $888 to heat your house with gas, $2,000, a little bit more, to heat it with oil, $3,000 to heat it with propane, and if you have a electric baseboard heat, it's another, $2,200. So how does that compare to air source heat pumps, which we aren't talking about on this webinar? It's about the same as gas. And ground source heat pumps or geothermal heat pumps for that same house would be $642 a year. Yes, these fuels have changed in price since last year, but one thing that I'll point out about heat pumps is the variability of the price of your electricity is not going to go up and down that much, whereas propane, oil, and gas are all going to fluctuate. So this gives you the ability to plan and budget long-term, unlike heating oil and propane, that change quite quickly, sometimes overnight. So how you get involved with HeatSmart program is to enroll on our website. You fill out a very short form, and that puts you in a relationship with us and entitles you to ask for any or all of our installers to give you an assessment for your home's heating system, and also for insulation and air sealing, if that's something that you're interested in. We like to emphasize that that's often the first step for homeowners before changing their heating system. And there's no obligation to you. So please consider enrolling. That's the end of my part of the presentation, and I want to introduce our HeatSmart installer partners that are geothermal specialists, Dailey Electric out of Penn Yan and Halco, and NP Environmental. And we also have Snug Planet, and they are also on the phone. They are not geothermal installers in our program, but they do install geothermal, and they have other, they do air source heat pumps and home energy efficiency improvements. So I'm going to stop sharing my slides and turn it over to our installer partners to introduce themselves one at a time, starting with Nick and I can't remember who from NP. Oh, Kevin. Hi, Kevin. Sorry about that. Nick and Kevin from NP Environmental. So say hello, fellas.
Lisa, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Great presentation. Thanks for the information. My name is Nick Pryputniewicz, co-founder and field engineer with NP Environmental. NP Environmental is a design, build, sustainable technologies company out of Waterville, New York. Started in 2004, and we're an original to the HeatSmart program. We specialize in ground source and air source heat pump systems, heat pump hot water heaters, ventilation systems, and indoor air quality systems, and we also have a full service department. Our belief then, back in 2004, long before heat pumps had the support that they do today, was that every home, building, process, or anything that requires temperatures between 35 degrees all the way up to 135 degrees, a very broad range, was a good fit for 400% efficient 3-in-1 heat pump technology. And I know what you're thinking when I throw out that number 400%, and it's what piqued my interest back in the beginning too. And it's hard to think or hard to consider that anything can have efficiencies above 100%. If you look at your conventional systems today, you're looking at 95, maybe 98% in the most perfect conditions with a perfect installation. Many things come into play. And the most important thing when you're considering the 400% efficiency is what can this do for you, and how can us here at NP Environmental help you put that to work for you and answer the question around how it achieves such high efficiency. So if you'd like to learn more, you can sign up to have a chat with us through this HeatSmart program. We appreciate your time. Your time is valuable, and we enjoy being out here with you tonight and look forward to speaking with you. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Nick. And next, I want to introduce, where are you, Ryan? Ryan Dailey and Leah Dailey from Dailey Electric. Are you there?
Yes, good evening. Sorry, I had to unmute us. Sorry. Thanks for joining us. Ryan will be right back. So we are Dailey Electric. Ryan and his dad started this back in he's been doing it for over 20 years, but Ryan took over the business in 2007. And really they started with just retro new construction kind of houses and projects. Back around 2010, Ryan really started to get involved with the geothermal and learned as much as he could. And since that point, we've really kind of focused at least 50 to 75% of our business on the geothermal. We also do the air source heat pumps, but we also do a lot of new construction and retro fits. So we have about 7 GC contractors around Keuka Lake, Seneca Lake that actually use us exclusively for their plumbing, electric, and heating. And most of the time we can turn most of our new construction into the geothermal. What has happened is the new construction has helped us get into the houses of the neighbors and friends that hear about it and see it and just love the utility rooms. And so that's helped us out a lot. We actually are partners in the HeatSmart Southern Tier down in Binghamton. And that we did that for last year and we're continuing this year. So that actually was our first exposure to any of the HeatSmart programs. We really enjoyed the HeatSmart program. So we're looking forward to working with everybody in Tompkins.
Thanks so much. And next we will go to Halco Energy, and I believe it's Matt Dennis who is going to speak for them. So take it away, Matt.
Hey everybody, my name is Matt with Halco Energy. Just a little bit about Halco. We've been with the HeatSmart program since day one. We're also part of two other HeatSmart programs, CNY and in Rochester. What makes Halco a little bit different is we do everything in the house. So I know this is mainly focused with geothermal, but we're a whole home energy contractor. So soup to nuts when it comes to insulation, air sealing, energy efficiency, and HVAC, we can handle all that for you. Been in business since 1984, so we've been doing this geothermal thing for quite a long time, long before it was a thing. When it was really more of a niche application. Now it's becoming real mainstream. 120 employees that work for our company, and half of that is our service department. And we offer 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So anything pretty much that you need as far as energy efficiencies or HVAC, we can handle for you. And that 24-hour thing isn't just a boast. We have an overnight staff. If you call us at 2 a.m. on Sunday morning, a real-life person answers the phone. We cover about 26 counties throughout the Finger Lakes in Central New York and the Southern Tier. Been in Ithaca area for more than 2 decades. We have hundreds and hundreds of heat pump systems that we've installed over the years. But you know, at the end of the day, we have the unique opportunity to be able to come into your house and solve pretty much all of your problems. And a lot of the times when you're looking at a heat pump system, you tend to find other issues that are affecting the energy efficiency of your home. So we can come in and address those, so we can put in a proper system for you, make your house efficient, and put put a heat pump system in for you. As Hal, our owner, has mentioned more than once, it doesn't make sense to put a heat pump on a screen door. So we want to make sure that the house is efficient and saving you money and making you as comfortable as possible. So we're happy to be here, and we're happy to answer any questions you have. So thanks.
Thanks so much, Matt. That's great. I love that line. I haven't heard that before. Don't put a heater on a screen door. It's great. So this is the time we turn this webinar over to you, the public, to ask your questions. You can unmute yourself and ask. You can direct your question to a particular installer or to the HeatSmart staff or to just everybody. And you can also type questions into the chat box and I'll read them out. So who has a question would like to kick us off? Yvonne. Can you unmute?
Yeah, I'm unmuted. Yeah, my question is, I just wondered about the refrigerants that are currently being used in geothermal heat pumps. Have they, in reading Drawdown, that's considered one of the #1 sources of climate gases. So I just wondered if the heat pumps are shifting their uses of refrigerants.
Yeah, I'll let the installers answer, but I want to start by saying that our installers in the HeatSmart program go through a rigorous vetting process. And one of the things that we and the HeatSmart team really care about is refrigerant management. And so part of our interview process is asking our installers how they handle refrigerants. And we feel very confident in all these companies that they will go the extra mile to make sure that the refrigerants are not leaking, that they are collected when they need to be and taken to the proper recycling facilities, because that is super, super important. Ryan, why don't you told us a story recently about how your company went out of its way to make sure that the refrigerants got recycled. Do you want to just chime in here?
Well, current refrigerant use in most geosystems is R410A. It's possibly changing here pretty soon, but that is the most common one. We all do it pretty much the same. You reclaim a system and suck down the refrigerant, reclaim it, take it to a recycling place, and that's how you properly dispose of it. R22 is the old stuff that's difficult to get rid of, difficult to find, to fix systems, so everything is switched over to the 410. So that's majority of systems are 410.
Great.
If I could add something to that.
Of course.
If you're concerned, the greenhouse gas footprint, the refrigerants are pretty bad. When in the drawdown analysis, I think a lot of what they're looking at is the growth of air conditioning for people who aren't using any energy for that yet, and the refrigerants use exploding. But here in the Northeast, your carbon footprint for heating is so huge that you would have to lose all the refrigerant every year to actually have a worse carbon footprint with a heat pump. So we do everything we can, and the installers do everything they can to make sure that we don't lose anything we don't need to. But you shouldn't feel like that's a reason not to go for the heat pumps for heating in our climate.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out, Jonathan. Jonathan pointed out to me that refrigerant loss from cars is a huge problem because your car jostles along, and how many of us have our air conditioners in our cars recharged? That's because you lost all the refrigerant, right? So the seals don't hold as well, but in a home, it's not rumbling down the road and going over potholes. So if you have a well-installed system that's well-maintained, you're not going to be leaking a lot of refrigerant, and we really trust our companies to go the extra mile on refrigerant management. It's so super important. So thanks for that question. I have a question in the chat. Do we know if the incentives, including the tax breaks and financing, apply to second homeowners? Great question. The new NYSEG and National Grid incentives you cannot use them for a second home. I believe that for the federal tax credit you can use on any home or building you own. Can somebody verify or tell me I'm wrong about that? I believe that's correct.
Yeah, the tax credits aren't an issue. I'm not sure though with the new incentives. I believe you can use it on a second home unless.
No, it was specified explicitly that you can't.
Yeah, okay. I know you could get away with it with the regular NYSERDA rebate. But yeah, I know that I hadn't read that one, but okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's actually super annoying because we just bought a second house, not a vacation home, but we're trying to figure out how to make it work. So I've been looking at it for my own personal use. Elizabeth from Snug Planet says that her husband and business partners, John, just gave a presentation at an industry conference about refrigerant management. So maybe we can get a copy of that and put it up on our website, Elizabeth. That would be great. Ryan asks, have any of the installers had experience installing a geothermal system to heat and cool a commercial greenhouse? I am looking to install a system for my business and also home. So Nick, has NP done a greenhouse?
Actually, at this time, we have not done a greenhouse. However, it's a perfect application for a greenhouse. We've had the opportunity to look at some of those projects, but this is, within the range of, Ryan, what temperature range are you looking to operate at?
So it's 3 different sections in one large greenhouse. One of them is going to be kept at a much warmer temperature, so in the upper 80s during the day, and then in the mid to upper 60s at night. Then there's a middle section, it's a larger section, which would be in the low 80s during the day and in the low 60s at night. And then the more interesting, harder to achieve parameter would be for a third section that would be in the mid to upper 70s during the day, but in the low to mid 50s at night, year round.
Okay. So that's well within the range of a capability of a ground source heat pump system. However, how it's designed and how it's controlled is going to be important for the different temperature swings that you're looking for. So things to consider would be, you know, how you're going to do the distribution for a system like that, and then also the sizing of the system, and then how you're going to control it in order to give you those temperatures throughout the day, which I imagine some days is going to be less demand, some days are going to be more demand. So those are the things that I would look at when doing a ground source heat pump system for that application.
Great. I appreciate that. I'm having an engineer currently try to design a system. I don't know if anybody works with Earth Sensitive Solutions.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, John supplies our heat pumps to us.
Yeah, I figured that was the case.
So Ryan, I just want to tell you that I visited my cousin in Norway, and she has an $800,000 brand new state-of-the-art chicken barn.
Wow.
Baby chicks have to be at 95 degrees the first week, 90 degrees the second week, etc. And she is heating it with geothermal heating. She does have a gas heater to supplement when it's needed, but Norway's very cold, and she's running that chicken barn with no problem with the geo and loves it. And they have geo in their house too. So there's a question, Matt, why don't you take this one from, oh, I don't know who that's from. How long does a geothermal heat system expected to last, and what maintenance is normal?
Well, properly taken care of, the heat pump portion of the project should have a lifespan of anywhere from 25 to, I've seen, the oldest units I've seen still in service are north of 30 years old, but they do need to be taken care of. This is a sophisticated piece of technology. It's not a plug and play and walk away and hope 10 years later everything's going to be working fine. So it's as long as it's taken care of, there's really no reason you shouldn't get at least 25 years out of the equipment itself. The loop field, as long as it doesn't leak, as long as nobody digs it up, I don't want to say last forever, but it could last forever. Once it's in the ground, it's in the ground. And again, as long as nobody goes monkeying with it and just leaves it alone, it really could seemingly last forever. It'll outlast any of us, that's for sure. But yeah, the system itself, you know, again, 25 years with proper maintenance. And then in the future, the next question you might ask is what happens in 25 years? If you have to replace it, you replace the heat pump. You don't need to monkey with the field at all. You can disconnect the equipment in the basement and connect it right into the existing loop field. We do that all the time with replacement systems, which, believe it or not, there are 20 and 30-year-old geothermal systems out there. They're not as common, but you know, they are out there. There's little pockets throughout New York that have had geosystems put in. But yeah, we've replaced a lot of those systems, but we just connect to the existing loop field.
Thanks, Matt. Does anyone else want to chime in about the recommended maintenance? I will just mention that one of the advantages of geothermal or ground source heat pumps is that unit is indoors, inside your house in a protected space, and the loop field is all buried. So there's nothing that's exposed to the elements, and that's one reason they last so long. And the piping that the water and antifreeze goes through is this very heavy duty plastic. So it's incredibly durable, and it just lasts and lasts. It doesn't break down. Generally, we get kind of worried about plastics than not breaking down, but this is a really good application for those. We're happy to have them.
One thing about the maintenance that has helped is the Symphony for Water Furnace, and GeoStar has it. So you can see if there's an issue, see if there's a problem, see if there's airflow issues. You can see all of that remotely before you head out in the field.
Ryan, tell them what the Symphony is. They might not know.
It's just a web-based platform that monitors what the unit does every 10 seconds. And we can see it from office. You can see it from your cell phone, and it shows you everything. There's a troubleshooting inside of it. There's everything you can ask for is inside of it to tell what the unit's doing performance-wise. You can make adjustments remotely, everything on it. It's very nice.
So, and not every heat pump comes with that software system. So you'll want to ask your installers about that if that's something that you're interested in. Nick, what's your recommended maintenance for the ground source systems?
We like to see a system twice a year if you're doing heating and cooling, once a year if you're only doing heating. You know, we find customers doing both. But the important things to look at, number one, what you see a lot of is important distributions installed properly and then upgraded properly if needed, especially on a forced air system, because many distribution systems, you know, that were installed in the past just weren't designed for the airflow required for a ground source heat pump system. And then you also want to be monitoring the loop field performance as well. But a lot of the problems that you see and what you want to maintain is really the airflow and keeping that air filter clean. That's, you know, really number one.
Great, thank you, Nick. Ryan, Todd Rose has a question about the noise. And let me just see what exactly he wrote here. How loud is the heat pump in the house? And how does domestic hot water tie into geothermal?
Very quiet. Much quieter than they used to be, especially variable capacity units. The ECM blowers, the units are very, very quiet. Water to water units can be a little noisier. There's ways to adjust that, but they definitely, you can hear those a little bit more. The water can be tied in multiple ways. You can use a desuperheater, which preheats the tank and then just has a finished tank next to it or one big one. There's 100% hot water options that can be installed so that the geothermal produces all your hot water. There's multiple ways to address the hot water in a house. 100% being the best way, we think.
Matt, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I agree 100%. I mean, yeah, you know, anything does make noise, but they are, you know, they're designed to be quiet because noise is energy, and wasted, you know, something that's loud is wasted energy. So, you know, I can tell you at full power, you could be standing right next to it and we can have just a normal conversation without too much of an issue. The other thing that might cause noise, if you know, we've touched on this a couple times, is distribution. If you've got a forced air system with improper ductwork and it's not, you know, designed and done correctly, you're going to get noise because you're moving a lot more air through the ductwork than you're used to as far as a furnace would do. So there's more to just yanking out your furnace and plugging in a heat pump. A lot of the times we have to do some significant modifications to make it all work. But and then as far as the hot water goes, yeah, Ryan said it exactly. There's a bunch of ways to do it. You can do it 100%. You can do it as a preheater. Just depends on your particular scenario and what you want to do.
So thank you, Nick. Yvonne wants to know, if you don't have a basement or a place inside your house, can the heat pump unit be put in an attached shed?
That is dependent on many different factors. And number one, you know, the equipment has to be in a space at least above 45 degrees. Number two, what's the distribution? So how would the distribution go from the attached building is important. So there's a couple different factors that you'd want to look at before considering putting the unit in a separate building.
Great.
Do you have, do you know what type of distribution you'd be using?
My system is a hydronic radiant floor and hot water baseboard on the second floor. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, that's correct. That would, so if you were to put it in a separate space, that would be definitely the ideal type of distribution if it were to go into a separate space. Now, is that separate space, is it insulated?
It would be, yes.
Okay. Yeah, so if it's insulated and it's within the building envelope that would maintain proper temperatures, then you could place the equipment in that area.
Where I might jump in. Where is your boiler now?
It's attached outside of the house, and it's a little shed built from SIPs,
Okay.
and the boiler generates enough heat to keep it quite warm in there.
Okay. So you got do you have pipes going underground?
There are pipes going on. This is for 2 duplexes.
Okay.
So there are pipes that run underground from my duplex to the other duplex. The rest of the pipes run right into the house.
Okay. Does this attached shed, does that share a wall with the building?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that shouldn't be a problem. It's basically a utility room.
Kind of.
Is your house
It's
located?
outside the envelope of the house in a sense,
Right.
but it's inside.
Right.
So Ryan asked about what I said about the pond, and I'll let the installers dig into it more, but basically if your pond weren't big enough, with the because the loop is collecting the heat, it could make you could get ice on the loops, and then your loops would float. And you would not want that to happen. So your pond has to have enough water and enough flow and be the right size and be the right distance from the house to make it make sense. So that your pond might not work for you, or you might need to trench it out. And that's some of the issues with a pond loop. Does anyone want to jump in and sort of say what the cautionary issues are with a pond, besides what I just said, or correct what I just said?
Greenhouse question is just off the bat, it's a pretty large BTU load, and that's dangerous.
Need a big pond.
Big.
Pond.
Like
Really big.
would an acre pond be
Depends how deep it is.
12 feet?
Maybe.
Okay.
It's a pretty big pond.
It's a design question.
Absolutely.
Ponds can be really, really tricky.
I'm not looking to do the entire greenhouse, the full BTU load with geothermal. That would just be too cost prohibitive for me. So I'm looking to do a hybrid system with geothermal and high efficiency propane.
Acre's pretty big.
Yeah, an acre that's bigger than my pond.
Okay.
That'd be interesting to see what John has to say about it.
Yeah.
John would be sort of he's sort of the guru when it comes to geothermal. If he says it'll work, it'll work. If he says it won't, don't argue with him.
That's hilarious. Okay. Todd Rose just is very concerned about the noise because they don't have a basement. So the unit would be like in a sort of utility closet, and wondering if it's louder or less loud than a refrigerator. Somebody want to take that?
I would say, it's going to be louder than a refrigerator. If you're talking about a water-to-water system, yes, it's going to be louder than your refrigerator. If you have, if your utility room is in a finished space where you might have, if noise is an issue, then that's something that we've got to look at. We can do some things as far as trying to mitigate the sound in the room, do some soundproofing or something. But yes, it is louder than a refrigerator.
Yeah, I will say that I'm very sensitive to noise, and I've stood right next to these units operating in a basement, and the noise has not bothered me. But you might want to, when the pause is lifted, we will hopefully have in-person home tours again. You might want to tour someone's home and check it out for yourself, and do it when the machine, when it's running. So it'll have to be a colder day or a hot day, because otherwise we probably won't get to hear anything. So we said that the webinar would last 45 minutes, but we're happy to go over to make sure all your questions are answered. But I will say, sort of last call for questions, and love to hear what questions folks may still have.
Lisa, this is Hal. Could I just make a quick comment?
Well, I guess I have to say yes, so go ahead, Hal. Yes.
I just wanted to reiterate on the financing, this new awesome financing that NYSERDA come out with last week. And the way they wrote that up and then they talk about the 1 year, it gets a little confusing. I just want to make sure everybody understood that this financing is for a period of up to 15 years. You could choose a term of 5 years, 10 years, or 15 years. But if you can imagine 0% financing for 15 years. So you basically take the cost of whatever you want to finance and divide it by 180 payments, and that's your payment. That's simple.
Can I
So
get
Thank
that
you for adding that,
Okay.
Hal. And it can be for energy efficiency upgrades. It can be for heat pumps. It can be for solar panels. It can be for any energy efficiency or renewable energy
absolutely.
program. So thank you for reiterating that. So it's going to be a 1 year period to apply for this money, but the loans can be paid for 5, 10, or 15 years, as Hal said. But the 1 year isn't guaranteed. So if you're going to wait till the end of this year, the money might be gone. Is the point we want to get home here. Super important.
What is the maximum of those loans?
The maximum amount? They
Okay.
didn't say.
I assume it's the same as it was, 25,000.
It's supposedly going to 50.
Well, that's news. That's going to make the funds go get dried up a lot faster.
Real fast.
Yeah.
I can tell you from firsthand experience. As soon as this went live, as soon as the news came out last week, just to speak for myself, I've gotten calls from folks that said, "Hey, I heard about this 0% financing thing. It's going to go quick. It is not unlimited funds. If it makes it through the summer, I'll be surprised."
Yeah, up to 50,000. My mind is spinning. What else can I buy? Okay. And I just want to pitch one more time the lunchtime webinar series starting on Tuesday. So next Tuesday, Thursday, and the following Tuesday, Thursday. Each of the installers on this call will have their own 45 minutes to go in depth into someone's house and tell you what they did to make it better, to solve that home problems, and all of you can really get into the weeds, and there'll be time to ask questions of them. You'll get to sort of like your sort of private session with each of them. So please enroll, or please sign up for those, and I'll send reminders. Also check your spam, because when I send the last minute reminder, I do it blind carbon copying everybody, and it could go into spam. So, but it's the only way I can figure out how to send that last minute reminder. So thanks everybody so much for spending a little time with the HeatSmart team on a rainy Thursday in April, and look for this webinar to be posted on our website early next week. And thank you all so very much.